Good morning. It's Wellness Wednesday. It's Laura here. I've missed y'all, so I'm here with another topic. It's a New Year's Eve special. There's loads of stuff kicking around at the moment about setting goals, intentions, whatever you like to call it. A lot of pressure out there. Well, today I want to share with you how to get fired up about real joyful goals that mean something to you. And I've got 6 top tips. Now, set the context. I procrastinate, I jump on the bandwagon. I'm typical in the past of setting myself a million goals and not achieving them. I get very distracted. So this is a real talk about how to work with your mind and really motivate yourself when it's not easy. So one of the big things that I teach people is shortcuts, how to work with your brain to really get results. So you are going to walk away with 6 important things that are going to reframe how you start the new year. Now, some of us are mixed about this. I know it's dark and it's still winter, but personally, I still like the newness and the new start of a new year. But it needs to be on my terms. I love getting revved up. As you know, I've got lots of energy, but I want to do things that are easy and I want to do things that work. I don't want to set myself up to fail. So I've got 6 top tips for you. So number 1 is feel it in your bones. So I constantly see people set themselves up to fail by creating the most boring, crappy goals, basically. They don't light them up. They don't tap into what their real motivation is. And quite frankly, writing down a list of how you're going to restrict this food, kill yourself in the gym, isn't going to motivate you to want to make any kind of change. So one of the questions I ask a lot of people is, whose goals are these? We're often conditioned by past experiences, by our parents, all sorts of things. So often, if you've got the word associated with it like should or ought to, then mate, that's not going to get you motivated. So what we want is to excite the brain, because let's face it, the brain gets very bored and will take the path of least resistance. So we need to get our brain fired up about goals. And when you understand how the brain works, that can really help. So the phone is obviously an easy one that the brain likes because you get a serotonin hit. You get feedback, you get likes and things like that. So what we have to do is we have to think in the same way when we're setting our goals. So the first point is feel it in your bones. Footballers who succeed, people that get things in life are fired up. They live, they breathe, and they feel the emotion of what they want. So that's the first thing. The second thing, and this has to do with my background in hypnosis, is don't make it difficult for yourself and just focus on conscious action. By that I mean lists, using that logical part of the brain to do this, this and this, and a list of goals. Use the unconscious, which is where great change takes place and how we learn. When we're relaxed, we can take in more suggestions about change, which is why visualization, not just consciously writing down goals and intentions, but actually dreaming, seeing, feeling, hearing the change that you want to make will make change much more possible. So don't just write a whole list of stuff and rely on that conscious part of your brain to execute it, because we'll get distracted. The unconscious mind and that relaxed state and hypnosis and things like that can be really an amazing way to accelerate the results. So always do conscious and unconscious work. The other thing is, make it easy for yourself. So I've got a couple of videos that I'm going to share tomorrow, 3 videos that you definitely need to watch in the new year. So one's around energy, one's around habits, and one's around setting realistic goals. But make it easy for yourself. So understand how a habit is formed and how to motivate your brain. So if you're going to do something, you'll need to create a reward around it, and you'll also need to repeat it. So any change that you want to make, you'll need to do several times, because that's how the brain learns, okay? So that's why it's important not to set too many goals, but just focus on doing something, create a reward around it, and then repeat it. The other area that people fall down on when they set goals is they have a high-level vision and they decide what they want, but then they don't utilize any resources they've got. So number 1, they don't plan it, so they don't put it in the diary or schedule it, so it often drifts. They don't pull on resources around them, and they don't set boundaries. So for example, if you're desperate to have more energy and you want to take more time for self-care, you definitely want to block out that time, and you definitely want to utilize your partner and people around you. You want to tell them that's what you're doing so you get the support, and you also want to just make sure that you've got those boundaries around it so that you do actually allocate time to do the goal. The next area is to map it out. So once you've got that dream or that big vision that you're really, really into, then you need to think about the steps to get you there. So we need a balance between overly being rigid and that kind of dreaming state. So we want to make sure that we do articulate what we want. So once you've got that big dream, there is some work to be done in terms of setting the outcome, in terms of what you're working towards. So you can't sort of, it's like a container for it. So you can have this big vision, but if you don't take any action, you're not going to meet the goal. So it is worth doing a little bit of, and writing it down can help because this makes the brain able to see what needs to be done. But it also helps us to understand where the triggers might be in terms of sabotaging behaviours and things like that. So say, for example, I've got a big dream about doing more speaking and things like that. I'm definitely driven to do it, but I would map it out and maybe think about some of the things that might sabotage me. So limiting beliefs and things like that. So mapping it out can be really useful. And then the final thing is accountability, but doing this in a way that's easy. So joining a group, having a support network, and really having the right people around you who are going to also be fired up to have those similar goals or aspirations is also important. I think this is the biggest thing. I find publicly making myself accountable, setting things up. So for example, this period in between Christmas and New Year, obviously I want to speak more, I want to talk more. You do lose a bit of your mojo and your confidence because you're not doing it as much. So what I've done today is I've scheduled a live and then I do it. Okay, so it's making myself accountable. So that could be a group. So rather than, starting January when we know that motivation wanes, sign up to something, be led, have somebody jumping on at the sideline saying, let's do this. How much easier if you have the map already there and the motivation and the inspiration. So let's go through my top tips again. So number one, you have to feel it in your bones. You have to be really motivated. It has to be something you want. It has to bring you joy. Otherwise, just rip it up and start again. Don't rely just on conscious change. Rely on unconscious change, which involves relaxing, visualization, working with the brain. Take the easiest path. Educate yourself on habits and how they're formed, how your brain works. I've got a video on habits that tells you all about it, how habits are formed, and you can replicate that process, make the path easy. Utilize all the resources you have. Don't just rely on yourself. Set boundaries around your new goals and get people brought on board so that it's not just about you. Take some time to map out what you want, work out where you're heading to, what the gaps are to get there, and then set yourself up by making yourself accountable. The whole thing about this is making things easy. When we understand that our brains, like I say, will take the path of least resistance, what we want to do is be cueing our environment and setting things up. So for me, it's not about willpower, it's about structures. It's about setting everything up and creating a nice, easy path to follow. So I hope you've enjoyed that talk and I hope that you're feeling more motivated. I'm also going to put against this post some review questions so that you can reflect on the year gone by. It's been a big year for me personally in terms of reflections and breakthroughs. I'd set myself a goal. This is the other thing to consider in terms of skyrocketing my business, but what was interesting was that I did, but maybe not as much in some of the ways that I thought I would. So the other thing to consider is that when you set an intention, be open to the fact that it may not always reveal itself in the way that you imagined, but be open to that because it's often still for your highest good. So those are my top tips. I hope you've enjoyed it, and like I say, tomorrow I will just post the 3 videos that I think you must watch this year. Number 1, habits. Number 2, energy. And number 3, how to set meaningful goals. So I hope you have an amazing New Year's Eve and I will speak to you in the new year. And I've got lots of exciting things coming up, lots of collaborations. I'm really, really excited about 2026. And I've certainly got a lot of things that you can join which will help you to make that change in 2026. Take care. Bye.